Welcome back. You're tuned into Sports Federation TV. I'm Lenyukta Chetty, and it's time for that Bashes competition. So take out your cell phones, because if you SMS Bashes to 33090, you can win a case of assorted Bashes drinks. Congratulations to last week's winner. That's Muhammad Noor Aransa. You can expect your case of assorted Bashes drinks in the mail very soon. Now, from the world of Scrabble, which most people might not even know is a bona fide sport, we have businessman extraordinaire and also South African chairperson for Scrabble, Gerald, and with him is Diana Mason, Western Province Vice President of Scrabble. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh, great. So wonderful to be back again.
Yes.
And for having us. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gerald, the last time you were on, there was talk of a world champs, hey?
Yes, well, that has happened now in November month of last year in Nairobi. That was the World Championships, and it went pretty okay. We had two competitors, two players from South Africa that participated. And then very recently we had an international tournament here in Cape Town, the Cape Town International Tournament.
Yes.
It's the second one that we're at. And I must say, just with some kind of pats on our back, the general feeling at the end of the tournament was, from players from all around the world, they said it was really a world-class event. So we were very pleased with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so the world champs might come knocking on Cape Town's door soon.
You
then.
never know. You never know. If we have enough, if we have the right funding, we'll definitely be a host country and a host city.
Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely. Now, from one of the most popular board games, household board games, to a bona fide sport that's competing on an international level. How does people go from, I mean, the household game to that level?
Okay, so it's pretty simple. You join a club.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I started out as just being a generic board player when I was younger, played with my grandmother, and I got divorced when I was 32, and I decided that I needed a cheap hobby. And I was reading a newspaper, and there was a tiny little ad saying, come and join us for games of Scrabble. And from that moment that I went to go and play Scrabble, I became part of that Scrabble family.
Now, I'm very interested in the game of Scrabble, as would be some of our viewers. It's not just a game of spelling. Hey, it's not just about spelling. It's about understanding the rules of language and of words and their combinations.
And you're quite right. Obviously, you got to know words. You got to know how to spell them. Because even though you might put a word down, but it's not spelled correctly, it's then not allowed. But like you say, it's not just about words; it's also about counting. Right. So there's an element. It's an element of literacy and an element of numeracy. So if children, and that I would encourage that to happen at a young age, because it helps them in terms of spelling and it helps them in terms of counting. Because you also got to keep track of the score, of your score as well as your opponent, because it's a competitive game in any event. In fact, I was just saying earlier, I play league tennis. The energy that's required in a Scrabble game is a lot more than a tennis match. So, so a lot of people think, oh, it's just something. It's a very passive sport. It's not really. It's actually very demanding. But like Diana, it started out just playing casual Scrabble. Once you get into it and you really start improving on your word knowledge and also just playing those words, it becomes very exciting. It's actually very exciting.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly from playing some of the cream of the international crop that were just here, the way that they can anagram, because fundamentally one of the biggest challenges in Scrabble is the ability to anagram, because you get 7 letters out of a bag and you've got to make the best words you possibly can off those 7 letters off your rack.
Yeah.
So it's really an anagramming skill. It's knowing your ing endings, your iest endings. It's knowing the tive endings. It's knowing whether you can pluralize a word or not. It's knowing if you can add something onto the front of a word. So a good word, for example, would be light, L-I-G-H-T, and then you know that you can put blight, you can put a B in front of that, you can put an F in front of that, you could put an S, you can put an S in front of that, an A in front of that. So there's 100 different ways of looking at one word.
Yeah.
How does one train for the sport?
I would say, well,
Socially.
a simple way of learning. Obviously, you also just to swat up words. There are official Scrabble word lists, books that have words in them from A to Z, and then also by playing, because sometimes I might know a certain grouping of words that my opponent might not know. Now I play it, by them seeing it and they know it's an accepted word, they've learnt a word.
Yes.
But just to lock into what Diana was talking about anagrams. I just want to give an example of what we're talking about. If you have a word like retains, which is probably the most common word to get out of a Scrabble bag, R-E-T-A-I-N-S. There's so many different variations of the word. There's Stani you can make with it. You can make Stainer, retains, all of those things, and that's anagramming, where you have that word, but you can play it in another form so that it fits on the board. And at the same time, too, the strategy about that as well. Because first of all, you want to get maximum score on a word, because you're playing against an opponent and you want to win. But at the same time, too, you also want to block your opponent from playing
On your word.
Yeah. And scoring off you.
So and making more score.
And making more score, So that's the excitement. And also, and most of the Scrabblers are actually quite crazy about the sport. It's that whole element of surprise. You don't know what you're picking out of the bag.
Yes.
You could pick up 3 I's, 2 U's, and an F. And really, there's nothing you can do. You can play if.
Make a miracle happen.
Yeah. Or you could pick up the most weirdest combination. You can hardly make any play with it. And it's just so incredible for us as South Africans to play among the elite or the best players in the world. We had players from Australia, from New Zealand, Malaysia, UK, the USA, Israel, Zambia.
So this is English Scrabble, right?
Yes,
English Scrabble.
Yes.
English Scrabble. I also need to add, like in Africa, if we do a comparison between South Africa and Africa, Scrabble is massive in Africa. In fact, in Nigeria, it's part of the school curriculum, and that is why you find 3 of Nigeria's top players among the top 20 players in the world.
And arguably one of the least expensive sports to play, I would think so.
No, it is. Once you have a board, you have a board, as long as you look after it.
Yeah.
A board would cost about 300-400 rand, and it's like you say, it's inexpensive.
Yeah. And you can share that. You can share that.
Of course, you share that.
Yeah.
A very important part, talking about inexpensive, that's what makes it quite attractive. And one of our main strategic objectives of a Scrabble body is to really grow it at grassroots level.
Absolutely.
So we've started that program.
Yeah.
We started it in schools. We have coaches up there, and I want to mention their names. Carol Parker, Ralph Sultani. These are guys that give up their free time, and they go around to school kids, kids in schools, supported by teachers, supported by principals, and introduce the game to them. And although we're very much at an infant stage,
it's happening.
It's happening.
Lovely.
And we as a committee, we as an organizing committee, we are so committed to that development, because not only do we want to bring more people in, you're also looking at the longevity of the sport. If we don't do it, the sport will die. And then something that's really useful to the development of our of people generally, and the fun aspect with people will die. So why? So that's why we're committing ourselves to it.
I also think that there's a completely different point of view. You know, my point of view might differ slightly from Gerald's, in that I think people have become so much more disassociated with having iPads, iPhones. Everything is kind of like video or TV oriented. There's not a hell of a lot of stuff that's happening that's maybe one-on-one, or that kind of board game type of thing that can happen, where people are actually interfacing competitively with each other.
Absolutely.
And learning to read signals between, like, if you've got a bad rack, you know, looking at that kind of stuff, so being a little bit more strategic in what the other person is communicating, the body language, but even bigger than that.
Like poker almost.
Oh yeah, no,
No,
indeed.
it does have some sort of like element of that in it.
Because there's lots of strategy.
Yes, there's lots of strategy.
Yeah.
But more, much more than that. It's the social interaction across the colour bar. So across every single community.
Well, the take-home message here for the schools that are watching, the principals and the teachers, those PTA bodies that will maybe have some influence into whether a sport like Scrabble is introduced. We've got the Junior World Champs. That is an opportunity that the children will have a shot at if they are getting involved.
Correct.
Hey.
Oh, absolutely.
And you spoke about numeracy, you spoke about anagrams, you spoke about literacy. Is there any other benefits to playing the sport? I mean, obviously the social aspect, the interaction aspect, the confidence.
I need to just mention, and you touched on the word where you said it builds confidence. Let me tell you something, that's exactly what it does. It really does help people in terms of their confidence, in terms of communication. You know, and when you're confident, you know you can achieve anything. And it definitely feeds that confidence, particularly in communication. Like Diana had said, it really is a great opportunity for the social aspect of Scrabble, like any sport, like you say. You know, it brings people together regardless of where you come from or what you are. And so those are the benefits, and we definitely going to encourage it very, very strongly.
The other thing that it also does, now that I'm really processing, is that it also provides you that competitive edge. So today I might have come last. Tomorrow, or the next time I play in the next competition, I don't want to come last. And you can actually set yourself little goals and little targets. In other words, I'd actually like to achieve 30 points per word, or I'd like to achieve a win of more than 3 games in a set competition. You know?
And that intrinsically teaches you to be ambitious in every
you
aspect of your life.
And it teaches you to actually become better than what you are.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that that's something that maybe in a society where there's a lot of mediocrity kind of sets you apart.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know? And I think it gives you the vehicles or the thinking to be able to do
Absolutely.
that.
Okay. Diana, how can people get in touch with a Western Province or Western Cape Scrabble in order to get involved or even support the Federation?
Okay.
Yeah, well, we do have clubs around the city, and I'm not sure whether that is available to you people in terms of putting it. But you have clubs in Retreat, in Rondebosch, in Pinelands.
Okay.
And we're also looking at having little satellite clubs around Cape Town. I think there's one starting in Ottery or Mitchell's Plain.
Let's talk social media, because that's the access most people are going for. Do you have a Facebook page,
Yes,
a
we do.
website?
Yes, we have a Facebook page and we've got a website. The website is Scrabble South Africa. If you just Google Scrabble South Africa, you'll get to the web page.
The information,
Yeah.
And it tells you all about the competition. It also gives you all the
different
clubs. It gives you all the contact people, who you need to contact. We're all available. We're all dead keen for people to get in touch with us. And for that matter, if there are people out there that would like to sponsor us, of course, that would be a blessing. That would be a huge blessing.
Huge. Because, you know, at the same time, too, even though the enthusiasm is carrying us through, and the commitment to the sport is carrying us through.
Thank you so much for sharing your passion with us,
Yeah.
and we wish you all the best, and may you get the funding that you need to
Yeah.
realize your
Thank
aspirations for your sport.
Fantastic.
you.
It was great
Thanks.
being here.
Again.
Wonderful seeing you again.
Thank you,
so
Gerald.
much.
Thank you, Diana.
Okay.
After the break, we'll be back with wrestling, so please stay tuned for that.